This next speaker is someone who us grads know all too well. She is someone who is fun, relatable, and is always doing her best to encourage her students to strive for the top. Although she was a little reluctant to give a speech after we suggested that she do it, she cares about her students' happiness so much that she is here today to do it anyway, and we truly thank her for that. On behalf of the grade 12 class of 2020, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our guest speaker and homeroom teacher, Miss Samantha Sansom.
Good afternoon, grads, colleagues, and family and friends watching at home. When the grads first put my name up as one of their choices for the guest speaker, I was hesitant. I am a speaker to students, not to an entire gymnasium full of people. But I knew that I would accept it if I were chosen. I mean, really, how could I not? Considering they would never let me live that down since I put them through debates last year. And thankfully for me, this year, there is not a gymnasium full of people. I do want to let you grads know that I am very honored that you chose me to lecture you one last time. So the theme you guys chose for your graduation celebration is, if you are comfortable and everything seems controlled, you're not going fast enough. Today, I am going to speak to the three main ideas that jump out at me in this theme: comfort, control, and speed. Firstly, let's touch on comfort. I like being comfortable, as you know, and that is why, as I stand here talking to you, I'm imagining that we're all in jeans and sneakers and t-shirts rather than formal attire and caps and gowns, just like we would be in our classroom. It's going to be important for all of you, as you move beyond these walls, to be comfortable with yourselves. Mark Lewis, a professor of clinical psychology, once stated, "It's hard being in early, middle, and then high school and liking yourself. For a great deal of that time, you are so busy trying to figure out who you are and trying to fit in that you rarely have time to be comfortable with you." So what does that mean, being comfortable with you? Well, for me, it means not comparing yourself to others or doing things just to impress or appease others. It means behaving in a way that you are proud of, being sure of yourself and your actions. Really, it just means liking who you are. Now, that can be very difficult when society is dictating who is the prettiest, who is the smartest, who is the best dressed, who is the most successful, who is the funniest, blah, blah, blah. But if you can find happiness in yourself, true happiness, with who you are as an individual, you can focus your energy more on accomplishing your goals and less energy on appeasing others. I need to tell you something that I'm not sure you guys hear often enough. You are all amazing young adults. You are some of the kindest and most generous students I have met. You are book smart and you are street smart. You are athletic and you are creative. And most of all, you are outspoken. Embrace these qualities within you. You are each special and remarkable. And that is who you are. If you can find comfort in all of your good qualities, and even in the not so good ones, you will worry less about what others think of you, which you can't control anyways, and spend more energy on controlling your place in the world. That brings me to the next idea about your theme: control. Having control in our lives is a necessity to sustain our inner strength. When we have a loss of control, we feel tense, uncertain, and a lack of self-assuredness. Let me give you an example to help you better understand this concept a wee bit better. A few years ago, I was put into a situation where one moment I was laughing with students, and the next I felt uncontrollable anger build up inside of me. I had lost control of not only the situation and my interaction with a particular student, but also my emotions. I yelled at the student in front of his peers, then pulled him into my classroom and tried to reason with him about his poor behavior. Later, I realized I should have been reasoning with myself rather than this student. It wasn't his fault I had lost control. I felt awful. I was so unsure about my reaction. Did I have a right to be angry? How could I have handled the situation differently? Should I admit my loss of defeat? Was doing so weak? I was, quite frankly, ashamed of my behavior and was haunted by it whenever I interacted with this student. You see, I have high expectations of myself as a teacher, and to this day, when I think of how I lost control, I feel nauseous. When we feel like we are in control of our environment, we also feel like we have a better chance of survival. I was not in control, and I lost that sense of survival as a teacher. I needed to fix it. I needed to regain my sense of control, and did so by apologizing to the student. My point is that, yes, it is important to feel that you are in control, that you have a sense of certainty, but at the same time, it's also so important to accept that sometimes you are going to lose control. You simply cannot control everything. I only ask that when you lose control, you learn from that experience. You think about why you lost it, how you lost it, and then you gain some knowledge about yourself that will strengthen your self-assuredness. The best lessons that I have learned about myself are from the vast amount of mistakes I have made throughout my life. I know that each of you will be confronted with the loss of control at some point, and my only wish is that you take some time in your fast-paced lives to learn from it and become a better person because of it. Life is fast. I once had a high school teacher who said that as you get older, the years go by faster and faster. Let me tell you, Madame Karstens was right. This brings me to the third idea about your theme. You're not going fast enough. Don't go fast. Oh no, take your time. You've probably heard your parents comment on how fast you've grown up. You probably feel as though your lives in school have not gone by fast enough. But stop. Take a moment right now and look at your peers sitting around you. Seriously, look at each other. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Take this fleeting moment to remember all of those memories you've shared. As you think of your memories, I'm going to share some of mine. You have always been my vocal class. My quarrelers, my bickerers, my debaters. One memory I quite vividly remember, and by far one of my most fond memories of your class, is of a certain argument that took place during a lunch hour in grade 9. I had just finished eating my lunch and kibitzing with my colleagues in the staff room, and was leisurely making my way back to my classroom to prepare for my grade 9 English class, which of course happens to be our current graduating class. I think I made it to about Miss Friesen's classroom when one of your classmates came running to find me with fear in her eyes, exclaiming wildly that something bad was going down in my classroom. "They're yelling at each other," she said. "All of them are just yelling at each other." The student was obviously panicked, but I reassured her as I quickly picked up the pace. I had no idea what I was walking into. My back straightened, my shoulders stiffened, the sweat started to bead at my brow. I was ready for this battle. I took a deep breath and entered the cacophony. Sure enough, you were all yelling over each other. It was a mayhem of irritation, exasperation, and frustration. You were in attack mode. Thankfully, I have years of experience yelling over rowdy students and threw my voice as loudly as I could, "Quiet!" Yep. I then asked, what in all the world had gotten you so riled up? Do you remember what it was from 4 years ago that had you all up in arms? Yeah? Some of you? I'll tell you. Trump. Donald J. Trump. You were arguing as to whether or not Trump was a good Christian. I will admit to you now that in my head, the laughter was taking over. Of all the things a typical grade 9 class would argue over their lunch break, I would never, ever have thought that Trump's Christianity would be a priority. But alas, you have never been a typical class. And if given the chance, you all would argue about the color of the sky for hours on end. That is why you have been one of my most memorable classes. I would present a lesson or an activity, and you would argue its value, debate its merit, offer alternative activities. I would play my dictator card, and we would move on. Last year, we had our debate unit. Oh, you all were in distress. Really? We have to argue in front of each other? And the grade 10s? You acted as though you hadn't already been doing this since you learned to talk. To ease you into this new experience, I came up with head-to-head on-the-spot debates. I knew you had this because I'd seen you do it thousands of times. So I lined you up in 2 rows facing each other. You groaned, you whined, you tried to argue. I played my dictator card, and we moved on with our head-to-head debates. Now, as a teacher, you imagine new activities will go smoothly. You hope it will work out as gloriously as you have imagined. But there is, more often than not, a little nagging feeling in your gut that it is all going to be a disaster. I have often felt these emotions with your class. However, this time, there was no disaster. I remember standing on a chair at the front of the class timing your mini debates, moderating as best I could while 20-some-odd grade 11s argued boisterously. And then I stopped and I listened. I listened with pride as you were all on task. You were all engaged. You were respectful, and you were having fun. It worked so well that we actually had to move the debates outside of the classroom because it could no longer contain the turbulence of your voices. I loved that lesson. I loved seeing each and every one of you at your best. It was not the arguing that made you shine in my eyes, but seeing you so involved, so in the present. You are at your best when you are living in the present, being completely engulfed by what is happening right now. I have been happiest when I see you all in that spirit, in the mind-blowing moment when you aren't thinking about anything but being committed to what you are doing. That day, in my eyes, you all found success. Just like the day you took on Trump's Christianity. I threw the lesson I had planned out the window, and we just talked for 70 minutes. You each had a chance to speak your mind. You listened to each other with consideration. You opened up to the possibility that it's okay for others to have differing opinions. That day, you showed me how much you had grown since I had taught you in grade 6. And you have continued to grow throughout the years. Don't rush that growth. It'll happen. Don't worry. You'll get to where you're going. Just take some time on your way to slow down. Remember these memories and make new memories. You don't need to live in the past or quickly speed through the present. You should, however, remember the past, live in the moment, and allow the future to come in good time. Well, that about does it for my very last lecture to you. Remember, you have the know-how and the gumption to move forward and argue your way through with open minds as you face each new chapter in these novels we call life. Congratulations to each and every one of you.